the leader of the Salina Tea Party movement. Please welcome to the microphone, Mr. Joe Winship.
Thank you, Clark. I want to personally thank each and every one of you here today for coming. You are the people that make this nation great. And I want to mention real quick, if anyone needs some water, they have some water jugs over here too. We are here today to pay tribute to what some have called the most significant document in the history of the United States of America, the Declaration of Independence. It was so significant that even today, 233 years later, we still set aside a special day to commemorate its completion. And we call this Independence Day. This magnificent document, drafted over a period of 17 days by Thomas Jefferson, is our nation's most cherished symbol of liberty. But who were these 56 men who, by signing this document, have committed an act of high treason against the crown of Great Britain, and what happened to them? Most of these men were men of substantial property and wealth. They were sober men. There were no dreamy-eyed intellectuals or draft card burners here. These men were not wild-eyed fanatics. They were a people a lot like you and me. They loved freedom, and they wanted what was best for their country. They were all well aware of the risks that they undertook. The penalty for treason was death by hanging. And there was already a British fleet in the harbor of New York. William Ellery, delegate from Rhode Island, records that in no man's face was he able to detect real fear when they, one by one, committed this great act of personal courage as they risked everything to sign this document. Of the 56 who signed the Declaration of Independence, 9 of them died of wounds or hardships during the war. Several of these men lost wives, sons, or entire families. Like one of them, John Hart of Trenton, New Jersey, risked his life to return home to see his dying wife, and he was chased from his home by soldiers. And while his wife lay on her deathbed, the soldiers ruined his farm and wrecked his homestead. He slept in caves and in the woods as he was hunted across the countryside. Finally, after wasting away in the wilderness, he was able to return home, only to find his farm wrecked, his wife buried, and his 13 children taken away. He never saw his children again, and he died a broken man just 2 years later. All of these men were, at one time or another, victims of manhunts. 12 of them saw their homes burned to the ground, and 17 of them lost everything they owned. Thomas Nelson, the signer from Virginia, had raised $2 million of his own money for the war by pledging his own estate. When the war was over, the loans came due. Nelson's property was forfeited, and he was never reimbursed. He died impoverished a few years later at the age of 50. These men proved by their actions that they made no idle boast when they composed the most magnificent statement in history, and I quote, "And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor." And not one of these 56 men went back on their pledge. God bless you, and thank you for being here.